Well, it feels like I've only just finished building this camper van. I bought this van over 2.5 years ago and got started with the conversion as soon as I got the van. And the van has been in its current form for 1.5 years now. I've had 2 amazing summers in this van and enjoyed using it lots and lots. But it is time to do something rather drastic. This van was the first van which I've ever worked on, and going into it I had no skill, no experience and no knowledge of where to even start, so this was just my little project to learn everything which I have learned over the last 2 years. And believe me, it is not as easy as people make it seem online. There is so much you have to think about when planning a van and trying to get right before you even start installing anything at all. And this is all ranging from the electrical layout, so where you're going to have all your light switches, your lights, all your battery and everything like that, making sure everything's easily accessible, all the wires can be easily accessed, and that everything is in the right position for when you've got all your furniture in. The use of materials is very, very important as well. You've got to make sure you use the correct materials in the correct place to make sure you don't get any damp, make sure that everything's sturdy enough and nothing's going to fall apart, and make sure the van looks nice. That is the main thing, so you're going to be spending a lot of time in there. The next thing you need to consider is the access for different bits of storage. You want to make sure you've got access to everything. You don't want to be having to crawl into little holes trying to find stuff because you've made bad access to different parts of the van. And you want to make sure all your storage is big enough as well. You're going to have to carry a lot of stuff in a van. You really need to optimise the space in the storage as best you can. And now the most annoying thing of all, making sure it doesn't make any noise. Fitting all this stuff into a van, especially when you're building it yourself, you're going to encounter rattles. But trying to plan it all so you get the least amount of rattles possible, such as the way you store your cutlery, the way that materials are joined up together, all that sort of stuff. It is vital to make sure the van is nice and quiet when you're driving down the roads, especially when you're on long toll roads all the way to the south of France. And as with anyone's first time in ever doing anything, I have made a lot of mistakes. Well, not mistakes, but learning curves, we'll use that term instead. And as summer's coming to an end, I've been brainstorming quick and easy ways which I can try and fix the van to make it much nicer to use on a daily basis and to make it work even better for us when we're away for long trips around Europe. But the concern is I do a quick and easy fix and I'm going to be in the same boat I was in before. In 2 years' time, I'll be sat here again talking about all the issues which I've got, and it's just going to be a constant vicious circle. So it's time to do it properly. We're going to strip out the whole van and start it back again from a blank shell. Drastic, I know, but why am I doing this? Well, let's go around the van and find out, shall we? Area number 1, the electrics under the bed. All the electrics which I've got work very, very well, and I've got the right amount of stuff. I don't feel like I need any more battery power or any more solar, which is a positive. But the storage position is very, very poor, and I should have planned this better. It is taking up a very large storage component under the bed, and the cables are a bit of a mess. Also, trying to access this if anything goes wrong, such as I blow a fuse or anything like that, it is an absolute nightmare, because you can open the cupboard door but then you've got to climb into the cupboard as I put the fuse box all the way at the back, so there's no chance you're going to easily access that at all. Also, a lot of the cables are quite too long and some of them are too short. I really couldn't get this right when I was doing it, so we need to try and tidy the cables up a little bit so it looks neater and runs neater so you can't see any going into the cabinet. Moving on from the electrics, area 2 is the light switches and plugs. I've only got one light switch and plug, which there's no easy access for this, because it's stored behind the bed. A great place you'd think, so you can turn the light on and off, but not when you look at the positioning. When the bed is laid flat, it is covered by the mattress and it gets knocked every time you are making the bed. Also means you can't charge the phones at night very easily, because you can have the cables digging into your leg. And due to it getting knocked constantly, it means that the light switch keeps breaking, so it definitely needs to be moved. Area 3 is the kitchen. In short, there's not enough storage space here, and it's not super easy to access the fridge. The fridges help because it can be opened either way, but if you've got the hob drawer out, it is very hard to climb around the hob drawer without knocking any of the pans which are cooking to get stuff out of the fridge. The shelves work, but they also don't work at the same time, because I never measured them properly. You can't easily stack 2 tins on top of each other, which would make sense in a shelf, or you can't stack 2 Tupperwares on top of each other, which is quite annoying. Area 4 is the garage, and this is just more visual, because the garage works amazingly. But there's no carpet in the garage, which I think it just tied the front of the van and the back of the van in a little bit better, while still keeping them separate spaces. It would also make the garage just feel a bit more homely and not like a panel van. Area 5 is the material choice. And now this is all my own fault because I did no research in this, but I've used CLS timber all over the van, and it is very bulky and it really doesn't look the best. I've tried to make it look nicer by varnishing it, but it has not worked very well, and the varnish didn't go the best either. There's lots of streaks, lots of blobs, and it just looks a bit rubbish. From a distance, it works fine and it looks okay, but as you get up close, you can see lots of poor cuts and lots of blobs of varnish, and I want it to look really good. And that links onto area 6, which is the quality of the work. I'd never done anything like this before, so I was learning it all on the job. I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the experience, so there's a lot of bad cuts, there's a lot of poor measurement, there's a lot of bad cuts and there's a lot of poor measurement. And I was doing it on a bit of a budget, so I didn't want to have to keep rebuying wood, so I made it work with what I had. But in turn, that means it looks quite poor. From a distance, as I said, it looks really, really good, and I'm happy with how it looks. It's not all negatives though. There are a few things in this conversion which have worked so well, and I absolutely love. The first thing about that is the layout. The split between the living room section and the garage section. This makes it so nice to be in, because you can have all your dirty kit in the back after a nice day riding, and you can still climb into the clean living section in the front and just relax and chill out. And it's so nice not having to sleep next to a dirty bike. Talking of storing the bike storage has worked so well. You can easily store 2 bikes and all your kit, and there's so much space in there. I'm so happy with how this turned out. Having the jet wash in there and the toolkit just makes working on the bike, cleaning the bike and storing the bike so much better. And area 3 is the hob drawer. Now I know it looks pretty rubbish, but it is so nice to be able to cook inside and outside in the van at the same time, and it makes really good storage and a great use of space to store the hob, which is something which is quite big and bulky and you don't want just lying around. So what next? To fix a lot of the things in its current situ, it will take a lot of work, especially as all the cables run through all the walls behind the garage and the bed, meaning the only reasonable approach is to rip the whole van out and get it back to a blank canvas. And that is what we're going to do. We are going to strip everything out and make this van a nice blank canvas ready for the next conversion. We're going to start off by stripping the living sections. This is all the bed and the kitchen area. We're then going to strip out the garage and the wall between the living section and the garage. Next, we're going to remove all the old panels which are carpeted and all the wires which are running through the walls, so we can check over all the wires and replace any which we need. We are going to remove all the current electrics from its current location and move it under the driver's seat, as it is a really good place to use up some space under there. We can then rewire the roof lights off new switches, so we can have multiple switches around the van and not ones which are going to get knocked by your bed. I'm going to replace the van flooring just because this is starting to look a little bit tired and worn out. And then finally, recarpet the rear section of the van. And at that point, the van will be ready for phase 2. It'll be very nice to get this van back to a blank canvas and a day van, because it then really opens up a whole world of opportunities which we've never had before. And now with all the experience I've gained over the last 2 years, we should be able to make a van which will be really nice. So stay tuned, as we have weekly build series coming thick and fast, and you don't want to miss it.